What if Godzilla was real? The first report comes from a fishing trawler 50 nautical miles off the Ogasawara Islands. Instruments spike, hulls groan, and a single, towering swell, wrong-shaped, wrong-timed, lifts the vessel like a toy. Satellites later show a heat bloom beneath the Pacific, a mobile plume that moves against currents as if they were mere suggestions. Tokyo's meteorological agency blames undersea volcanism. Oceanographers disagree. Their emails FOIA'd months later show the first use of the word that will traumatize the century, Godzilla. But on that day, it's just a bad waveform to be smoothed out by data filters and human denial. Meanwhile, something ancient wakes, tasting radiation, hunger, and the static of a planet buzzing with reactors. As the swell dissipates into ordinary chop, the trawler crew finds 3 fish the size of cars, bellies charred, eyes boiled. They film, they laugh nervously, and they post. The clip gets buried under cat videos and political outrage cycles. No one notices the skyline-sized silhouette corkscrewing below the surface, following the warmth. At the International Atomic Energy Agency's Vienna office, Dr. Amaya Kuroda circles anomalous isotopes on a whiteboard. Radiation spikes ripple across monitors. Fukushima's backup pools flicker hotter than models allow. Her colleagues mutter, sensor glitches, solar storms. Amaya draws 3 overlapping circles: heat, motion, intellect. If it's random, it won't track to energy sources, she says. The room goes quiet. Emails from Japan's Ministry of Defense arrive with pixelated sonar stills, vertebrae the size of submarines, a dorsal ridge like a jagged skyline. Classification, top secret. But one intern misroutes a packet. A hacker. Collective leaks it under hashtag #DeepScales. Conspiracy forums ignite, mainstream outlets snicker, and stock markets wobble anyway. Amaya catches a train home, eyes darting to every glowing billboard. Civilization looks suddenly fragile, an anthill under approaching boots. She orders a Geiger counter online, just in case. The breach is a wound in the sea. Off Sendai, fishermen film a mountain rising, water shredding off its flanks like torn silk. The head crests first, a saurian crown of keloid scars and quaking gills, followed by shoulders that look like fortresses. Godzilla exhales, steam, then azure flame licking the fog. Boats capsize. A news helicopter dives too close and vaporizes mid-broadcast, the feed cutting on a scream. Within 40 minutes, Godzilla trends #1 globally. Governments deny. Governments convene. Evacuation orders clog phones in northern Honshu. Move inland, high ground, leave vehicles. Too late for many. Godzilla turns, not toward cities, but toward the coastal nuclear facility like a moth to a lamp. Turbines whine, military jets scramble. The first missiles hit and simply melt. The attack on the plant is methodical, surgical. Godzilla's dorsal plates glow like a heartbeat monitor, pulses accelerating. The beam, atomic breath, a needle of blue-white hell, carves through containment domes, vaporizing concrete, flashing pools to steam. Sirens die, the grid collapses. But here's the twist. The creature isn't feeding on chaos. Sensors show a dip, then a stabilization of radiation levels. It's drinking the fallout, eating our poison. The Japanese cabinet calls it a catastrophic remediation. In a bunker beneath Tokyo, Prime Minister Sato whispers, "What are we to it? Just ants who dropped the sugar?" The cabinet secretary writes, "Objective unknown, threat level existential." Meanwhile, videos of Godzilla wading back to sea rack up 1 billion views. The meme, "He cleans up after himself." The world laughs for 24 hours. Then he heads east. In Washington, a war room hums. Analysts scale the beast at 115 meters tall, 90,000 metric tons. Conventional weapons, useless. Nuclear, tempting and suicidal. The Joint Chiefs argue, lure it, cage it, redirect it. Dr. Kuroda arrives via secure link warning, every reactor is a dinner bell. The president's science advisor suggests a plan: blackout corridors, rolling brownouts, a global energy fast to starve Godzilla of signals. Economists scream. Stock markets crater at the mere rumor. The president asks, how fast can we build decoys? Quietly, DARPA spins up Project Thermistor, giant mobile radiothermal batteries to drag Godzilla away from population centers. Quietly, the Pentagon emails France, Russia, China. For once, everyone hits reply all, with urgency instead of sarcasm. New York learns from Sendai. When sensors detect Godzilla's vector shifting toward the Atlantic, emergency management unleashes the largest evacuation in city history. Bridges jam immediately. Drone swarms broadcast alternate routes through pre-cleared streets. Subway tunnels become shelters. Central Park becomes a landing zone for tilt rotors. There are fights, looting, acts of grace. A firefighter hand cranks an elevator to free an elderly couple. A teenager programs a mesh network to keep cell phones alive. Twitter renames itself #We Go Together. Godzilla surfaces off Montauk at dawn. The Statue of Liberty stands a finger-length high against its chest. It doesn't head for Manhattan. Instead, it angles toward Indian Point Energy Center, decommissioned but still warm. A flotilla of tugboats carrying thermistor decoys humming like tiny suns lures it south. New York's skyline reflects blue pulses in the low cloud deck, like lightning searching for ground. Project Thermistor works, partly. Godzilla follows the convoy into open ocean away from the coast, but the French Navy, protecting a nuclear reprocessing ship, opens fire to test inertial response. The shells ping like raindrops. Godzilla whips its tail. A cruiser snaps in half. The world realizes restraint must be unanimous. The UN convenes an emergency assembly drafting the Reykjavik Accords, a ceasefire with a creature. Clause 1, no hostile engagement without unanimous Security Council approval. Clause 2, global nuclear drawdown accelerated by 300%. Clause 3, establish the International Kaiju Research Consortium, IKRC, signed in a hangar in Iceland, while Godzilla sleeps beneath the Greenland ice shelf, absorbing meltwater warmth. Humanity, cornered, cooperates. The IKRC's headquarters in Geneva buzzes like CERN on adrenaline. Biologists, physicists, mythographers, linguists. Anyone who's ever scribbled notes on Godzilla gets a badge. Dr. Kuroda leads bioenergetics, Dr. Luis Mendoza maps neural potentials with deep-sea listening posts. Myth scholar Professor Hanai Ito catalogs legends of sea dragons eating lightning. Patterns emerge. Godzilla rises where radiation spikes and tectonic seams interact. He's not random. He's a planetary immune response. A living failsafe born, or awakened, when humanity surpassed a thermodynamic threshold. He's our fever, Ito says. If we cool down, maybe he sleeps. Protesters outside chant, "Let him clean." Eco-radicals who see Godzilla as Gaia's janitor. Inside, strategies brew. Pheromonal buoys, frequency jammers, perhaps even dialogue. If dialogue can cross 1,000,000 years of evolution. Los Angeles empties preemptively. The freeways, usually arteries of exhaust, lie eerily silent. Wildlife creeps into Studio City. Drones patrol skid rows to prevent abandonment. Godzilla veers south, drawn to San Onofre's spent fuel pools. Military engineers flood them with borated water, cooling, diluting, praying. Godzilla pauses offshore, pacing like a tiger blocked by glass. His roar, low and seismic, knocks windows from Santa Monica to Riverside. Seismographs register it as a microquake. Then, unexpectedly, he turns away, toward the warm plume of the Gulf Stream, toward Panama, toward... what? The Canal Authority initiates Operation Plug, sink ships to block passages. Global trade grinds, prices explode. A child in Honduras films Godzilla trudging through mangroves at dusk, fireflies orbiting his head like curious stars. The clip becomes the most watched video in history. Panama Canal, a choke point for both commerce and kaiju. Godzilla arrives at Miraflores locks as engineers detonate charges, dropping barriers like medieval portcullises. He studies them, then simply steps over, ignoring the human cleverness beneath his ankle. He could crush the infrastructure but doesn't. Instead, he drags his tail through a munitions depot, igniting a chain of fireworks that turn night to day. The lesson? Collateral damage is our problem, not his intent. Thermistor tugboats race ahead, laying a breadcrumb trail of radiothermal emitters across the Pacific. Godzilla follows, hungrily. South America breathes again, shakily, only to watch satellite images of the creature making for Antarctica, where our most secret research reactors hum under ice. The U.S.-Chinese deep ice neutrino array, built in quiet defiance of treaties, glows like a beacon to anything that drinks radiation. Godzilla shatters ice shelves like porcelain, plunges into subglacial lakes warmer than they should be. The array's core, an experimental microfission lattice, melts into his maw. Sensors scream, then silence, and then a miracle. Godzilla's glow subsides. He slows, curls, and sleeps, half entombed in ice. For the first time in months, the world exhales. IKRC teams descend by VTOL, setting up camp on the creature's flank like ants mapping a sleeping dragon. They drill, sample, listen. Inside, echoes like whale songs bounce around caverns of flesh. Dr. Mendoza theorizes a hibernation cycle keyed to planetary background radiation. Turn off the lights long enough, he says, and he'll turn himself off. Governments pledge rolling blackouts. Citizens buy candles. The stars return to urban skies. Not everyone wants the lights dimmed. The cult of Zilla blooms online, forums, then street cells, then sabotages. They see Godzilla as judge and savior, and they leak reactor coordinates to lure him to corrupt capitals. In Mumbai, a blackout meant to hide a research lab becomes a humanitarian crisis when thieves loot hospitals. A splinter group bombs a hydroelectric dam, claiming hydrogen is radiation too. The IKRC forms a counter-messaging unit, memeing for survival, cartoons explaining isotopes, influencers promoting cool Earth challenges, unplug plant petition. The cult's leader, a charismatic former climate scientist named Dr. Etienne Rousseau, streams sermons. He is proof Earth will not be mocked. His arrest in Belgium sparks riots. Meanwhile, the ice around Godzilla cracks with each footfall of human fanaticism. Scientists implant microseismic sensors along Godzilla's dorsal plates, translating vibrations into data streams. Composer-turned-neuroscientist Aisha Ben Musa maps the patterns into soundscapes. Brooding chords, sudden spikes. Could this be cognition? He's dreaming, she whispers. Dreams of what? Nuclear fire? Abyssal darkness? We may never know. But one night the pattern changes, from slow waves to staccato bursts. Mendoza reads stress along the ice. He's waking. They have hours, maybe minutes. Thermistor units spool up along a pre-approved escape corridor toward the South Pacific. World leaders go live together, asking for one more blackout, one more sacrifice. The lights go out on 6 continents. The Milky Way pours down. Godzilla stirs beneath auroras shimmering like curtains over an ancient stage. The ice explodes. Fragments the size of buses loft into the sky. Godzilla surfaces, roar muffled by snow, then clears like a foghorn. He follows the humming corridor, slow but purposeful. A rogue Russian sub fires a tactical torpedo, fearing he'll head for Vladivostok's reactors. It detonates against a scale. Godzilla barely registers it, but he adjusts course, annoyed. The IKRC's carefully plotted path veers toward Chile's coast. Panic surges. Chile scrambles to evacuate Valparaiso, dredging the harbor to funnel thermistor barges. At dawn, Godzilla threads the channel like a needle, never touching land, dorsal plates slicing spray into rainbows. Children cheer from distant cliffs, a bizarre, terrified pride blooming. We shared a planet with that. Reykjavik Accords weren't enough. A new treaty, Dark Skies, binds nations to permanent reductions, phasing out not just nuclear, but high-intensity electromagnetic emissions in critical zones. Satellite constellations reroute or dim. 5G nodes throttle at night. Internet usage norms shift. Data centers relocate to hardened, shielded underground complexes. Energy is rationed on a planetary schedule. A global pulse synchronized to keep Godzilla asleep or far. Economies shudder, adapt. Street vendors sell Zilla-safe lanterns. Startups boom in low-energy tech. A black market for illegal radiators emerges, used by criminals and cultists alike. Dr. Kuroda, exhausted, pens an op-ed, "We wanted limitless power. We got a limit with teeth." Rumors swirl of other titans. Sonar ghosts in the Mariana Trench, a mountain that moved in Kamchatka. IKRC deploys deep drones, finding echoes but no bodies. Are they sleeping? Extinct? Or is Godzilla singular? A mutation? An avatar? Nations build kaiju embassies, fortified, research-capable ports designed to host or divert Godzilla should he visit. Flags of rival countries fly side by side above bunkers stocked with iodine pills and poetry books. Art for the end times, a curator jokes darkly. Tourism shifts. People visit the Chilean cliffs where Godzilla passed, the ice crater in Antarctica, Sendai's memorial seawall etched with the names of those who didn't outrun the first wave. The monster becomes both threat and pilgrimage. 3 years in, a new behavior. Godzilla surfaces in the mid-Pacific, emits a low-energy pulse, and sinks. Days later, oceanic plankton blooms triple, sequestering gigatons of carbon. Scientists hypothesize his radiation is altering microbial metabolisms, kickstarting carbon fixation. Environmentalists split. Is Godzilla accidental savior or unpredictable weapon? The cult of Zilla claims it as divine proof. Governments quietly task think tanks to model a world where kaiju ecology offsets warming. Dangerous thoughts. Dr. Mendoza warns, if we depend on a monster to fix our climate, we deserve extinction. Yet venture capital flows to bio-Gojira startups trying to mimic the pulse. Patents on radiation-modulated algae ignite legal wars. A covert branch of IKRC, Team Foxtrot, tests sonic deterrence. Massive infrasound arrays emit whale-like calls meant to soothe, redirect, discourage. Early trials on humpbacks succeed. Tests on Godzilla fail. He doesn't care. However, they discover certain frequencies interrupt Cult of Zilla broadcasts, causing nausea. Ethicists balk at weaponizing sound against humans. Meanwhile, cities adopt whisper grids, power systems wrapped in Faraday cages, energy trickled in pulses to avoid creating radiative tastes. Blackouts become culture, candlelit festivals and analog fairs flourished, vinyl outsells streaming for the first time in decades. People relearn board games. Without the hum of constant electricity, nights grow louder with human voices, and the distant, ever-present possibility of a roar. Madrid hosts the World Energy Transition Expo. In defiance of dark skies, a startup unveils a compact fusion core on live TV. 6 seconds later, seismic monitors pick up a turn in the Atlantic. The demonstration halts, but Godzilla is already on the move, crossing at record speed. Europe panics. Evacuation routes clog. In a last-ditch effort, IKRC floods the Bay of Biscay with decoys and detonates an EMP to mask the fusion signature. It works, mostly. Godzilla slams into the decoy field, inhaling, roaring, then veering north toward colder, cleaner waters. The fusion core is seized. Madrid drafts laws harsher than any anti-drug statute for high-density energy tech. The startup's CEO flees. Rumors say he joined the cult. 10-year-olds grow up knowing quiet hours, when power dies and stars burn. Teachers assign journals. What did you hear when the lights were out? Children write of wind, neighbors humming, distant trains, Godzilla's lullabies beneath the sea. Society adapts. Electric cars become rare. Bicycles and hydrogen trams rule. Cities design glow maps to guide emergency lighting without triggering kaiju interest. Architects build with mass and shadow, not glass and neon. A new aesthetic, neo-nocturne, dominates movies and fashion. The monster shaped culture more deeply than any war. And yet, under it all, humanity hums with a perverse pride. We bent, but we did not break. Religion twists, adapts. Some denominations declare Godzilla an instrument of the divine, a leviathan reminding humans of humility. Others condemn kaiju worship as idolatry. Mosques install low-energy, candle-lit cooling systems. Cathedrals host climate refugees during blackout waves. In Lagos, a pastor preaches faith is not flipping a switch. It's enduring the dark with hands joined. In Tokyo, Shinto shrines revive rites for sea spirits. The IKRC's ethics committee fields endless petitions. Can researchers sedate Godzilla, clone tissue, harvest dorsal plates that wash ashore? They approve none. Every poke risks waking the planet's heaviest sleeper. The cult fractures. Russo's faction wants passive reverence. A militant wing, the Fangs, wants to weaponize Godzilla, herding him to Sin Cities. They hack thermistor coordinates, triggering a near miss with Shanghai. China responds ruthlessly, disappearing suspects. In retaliation, Fangs dump sensitive IKRC data, exposing the Antarctic reactor secret and sparking outrage. Protests erupt. Who lit the fuse? Governments shrug, blame the old world order, the IKRC each other. Dr. Kuroda resigns on livestream, tears in her eyes. Science cannot be run by secrecy and fear. She vanishes into a sailboat in the Pacific, rumored to be tagging blue whales with Godzilla sensors. It begins with tremors near the Azores and ends with headlines, MOTHRA? Not exactly, this isn't Toho's moth goddess, but a gargantuan bioluminescent organism resembling a manta ray, wings spanning football fields. It feeds on biothermal vents, emitting electromagnetic noise like a faulty radar. Godzilla notices. The two titans meet in midnight depths, satellites tracking shock waves. The fight is silent to human ears, but instruments scream. When they surface, the manta, dubbed Rayla, lies bleeding, glowing cyan. Godzilla doesn't kill. He nudges it toward a volcanic trench like a parent nudging a wayward child. Then, he submerges. The IKRC revises everything. Godzilla isn't just immune response, he's also regulator, apex enforcer in a hidden ecology of giants. Humanity is reassigned from enemy to background noise, if we're lucky. Aisha Ben Musa perfects a machine that encodes seismic pulses into directed energy waves, an attempt to speak to Godzilla. The message, not words, but shapes, patterns mimicking the stable, low-radiation hum of Earth's pre-nuclear age. They broadcast from a shielded station in New Zealand. Godzilla pauses mid-ocean, turns his head as if listening. For 6 heart-stopping minutes, he hovers. Then he responds with a low-frequency tremor that topples glasses in Wellington. Aisha cries, "He heard us," meaning unknown. But it's the first exchange, a cosmic hello between ant and mountain. Governments want to weaponize it. Aisha encrypts the system and uploads it to a decentralized network. "No one owns the lullaby," she declares. Deep-sea mining consortia, desperate for rare earths in a low-energy world, deploy robot fleets in the Clarion-Clipperton zone. They think it's far from Godzilla's roots. They're wrong. Sediment plumes glow faintly as isotopes concentrate. Godzilla's patrol intersects. He slaps the seafloor with his tail, crushing machines like tin. The message is clear. The abyss is his realm. The UN bans deep-sea mining within 2,000 kilometers of kaiju paths, effectively halting the industry. Commodities skyrocket. Innovation pivots to recycling, urban mining, bio-based electronics. The crisis accelerates sustainability because there's a 90,000-ton enforcement arm out there. Young people born into the quiet age grow restless. They never knew the neon glut, but they resent fear-based governance. Hackers design dark tech, devices that function on negligible power, invisible to kaiju senses but free of state throttles. An underground culture flourishes, part digital, part campfire. Poetry slams in blackout basements, UV ink tattoos that glow only during pulses, music composed for acoustic instruments, and Godzilla roar backdrops. They rename themselves the Hibernate Generation, not in defeat, but in strategic patience. We'll wake when the world is safe, a zine declares. Irony drips, humanity learning to hibernate its ambitions. 12 years after the first breach, Godzilla does the unthinkable. He walks onto land voluntarily, in Namibia, a sparsely populated coast with an abandoned uranium mine. The world holds its breath. He pauses before the open pit, snorts, and collapses, blocking the access like a living plug. Radiation levels drop. He sleeps for days. Scientists debate, is he sealing wounds we left? Locals leave offerings, water, carved stones, lullabies whispered into the wind. A lion pride naps in his shadow, unafraid. The scene becomes an icon, a beast, a scar, and a planet improvising peace. A full year passes with no Godzilla sightings. Sensors detect only faint, steady heartbeats in the abyssal plains. Humanity panics. Absence is scarier than presence. Are we safe or abandoned? Energy ramps up, temptation rises. A South Korean lab tests a microreactor. Nothing happens. A Brazilian city lights a festival fully again. Still silence. Maybe he's gone? Stocks soar. Carbon rebounds. Dr. Mendoza cautions, voice thin. Maybe he trusts us. Don't break it. We do. Someone always does. A rogue state launches a low-yield nuclear test in the Gobi. Within 48 hours, Godzilla surfaces in the East China Sea, angling not for the test site, but for Hiroshima. Symbol, wound, beacon. Japan faces an impossible choice: fire on him and risk everything, or trust the lullaby. Aisha's team broadcasts the pattern at full amplitude. Cities dim. Millions gather in candle-lit silence, a global vigil transmitted by low-power radio. Godzilla stops at the edge of the inland sea, dorsal plates dimming. He submerges, leaving only concentric ripples glimmering under starlight. Hiroshima exhales, then rings its peace bell longer than it has since 1945. The rogue state, shamed, dismantles its program under international glare. The bell's tone becomes part of Aisha's next pattern. Decades later, children ask grandparents, "What was the roar like?" They answer with hands, with trembling breaths, with recordings etched on vinyl. The world functions on rhythms, pulses of power, pulses of quiet, pulses of vigilance. We learned limits the hard way, via an ancient titan who ate our worst mistakes and threatened our best ambitions. IKRC persists, leaner, more transparent. Dr. Kuroda, aged and sun-browned, returns with data showing Godzilla's heart rate synced to solar cycles more than human tech. Perhaps we were never the main show, just loud background noise. But we mattered to ourselves, and that mattered enough to change. Godzilla sleeps in trenches that glow faintly, like embers waiting for wind. We live above, whispering, building softly. telling stories of the time a god walked out of the sea and taught us how to turn off the lights.